Well, first of all, thank you everyone for being here and welcome to our virtual artist talk for social being, which is on display through next Friday, February 11th. My name is Sarah Kayampa. I am the exhibits coordinator at the Moncrines Arts Center, and I'll be your moderator this evening. Michael Fisher, the executive director of the Art Center, is also with us to manage the Zoom call. I will begin today's talk by introducing all of the artists joining us. We have Kathleen Caprario. There she is. We have Sandra Honda. All right. We have Mei-ling Lee. All right. We have Charly Swing. Hello. Hello. And we have Kerry Weeks. And we're very glad. There we are. We're very glad to have all of them here. So social being features individual and collaborative works, including 2- and 3-dimensional artwork, interactive performance pieces, and installations. All 5 of the artists live and work in the Eugene area. The exhibit examines social being through a female lens, focusing on questions of identity, the other, social justice, and privilege. Kathleen Caprario displays mixed media paintings, videos, and installations. She questions how she, as a white woman, relocates herself in relationship to critical conversations around race, art, equity, and identity and place without perpetuating the privileged stance that she interrogates. Sandra Honda examines through installations, drawings, and digital works what it means to be Asian and American in today's America, given the historical context of imprisonment of people of Japanese ancestry during World War II. Dr. Mei-ling Lee is a Taiwanese-born musician, composer, and performer, working in cross-cultural forms of Western and traditional Chinese music using electronic instruments and processes. Her installation, The Lighted Windows, is about longing, imagining, and locating oneself in the world. Charly Swing is a figurative artist and sculptor who is the founder of Art City Eugene and executive director of Art City Oregon. For the Social Being exhibit, she creates an installation that shares a story of contemporary women engaging in self-reflection, as well as an interactive project that asks viewers to participate in self-observation and reflection. And Kerry Weeks is an interdisciplinary artist and innovator known in the Eugene arts community for producing crowd drawing, socially engaged art experiences. For the Social Being exhibit, she creates an immersive experiential space as a reflection of the natural world, which includes original video, audio, and sculptural elements.
It hit me, facts rarely change people's hearts or minds, but stories can, and stories do. And art, as a storytelling device, has this amazing ability to bridge time and place and differences, and to offer new possibility for people to consider. My work for this show invites the viewer in for a moment of personal reflection and the opportunity to locate themselves within the critical conversations and stories, both past and present, regarding race, privilege, and place, from a very personal stance. That is my intention.
Well, that's a very big question, Sarah. I think this show is going to mean different things to different people, and it's not for me to tell them or to dictate to them what they should see or what I want them to see. Rather, I think my intent is to open up the spaces for conversations that can be had around the different works in the show. And with regard to my work, well, who are all my audiences? I think there are a lot of different audiences out there. So for everyone, it's this opening of space for conversation. If you didn't know about the things I talk about, if you didn't know about the historical experiences of Japanese Americans, you didn't know how to relate it to other Asian Americans, to the BIPOC community. And so that's where I hope to go with that. If you do know something about the experiences, and whether you learned it at school or from a neighbor or whatever, I think this is the space where I ask you to, hey, pay attention. You may not have noted the details, but as Kathleen said, I think art gives you a way to connect emotionally and psychologically to the questions that I put before my viewers. And to the BIPOC community, I think there's a commonality that we all share in our struggles to be seen and be heard in America. For the Asian American community, generally, I think there's a lot we share, and we should understand that historical grounding in what we share. And what I say in my artist statement, and what I say to friends and people who come and visit me in the studio is, I view my work as displaying the present, displaying the past, and in doing so, we, in some ways, can foretell the future. And so we need to, as Asian Americans generally, I think we need to improve our understanding of the need to identify as a group. And even though we don't like to be considered a monolith, we fight for our own ethnic identities. I think there's strength in unity. And at this time when anti-Asian crimes escalate, I think that need is very real. And to my Japanese American brothers and sisters, what I do say is that I hope I give you the permission to speak. In my family growing up, we didn't talk about what happened. We talked about it in very subtle ways, and it's only through my own questioning of myself and my own identity, I've given myself permission to speak, and therefore to grieve, and therefore hopefully for all of us to heal and to come together as a community. And I see that in the younger generation is doing a better job than, if they're paying attention, they're doing a much better job than we did as third generation immigrants.
You know, I don't know what impact I could bring in, but I'm just hoping through my sound design, through the music, I can very honest to just put out what I'm thinking about things around me, and hoping, you know, there's a chance that someone, when they come to see the work or hear the work, they may open up their mind and say, I never thought of that. Or say, well, I didn't think this is that way. You know, we all do very, very little things around us, hoping to change the world. But I feel like if I put out my thoughts through my music, someone walk in, hear the sound I made, or see the installation, it will make them think a little bit different of where they were, and hopefully they will open up their mind a little bit, willing to accept more things around them. So
my pieces, what I've done for this work is give specifically women the opportunity to observe and to observe themselves. Or if men have been interested in participating in the gallery, I've asked them to observe themselves. And everybody is drawing themselves. Everybody who participated in on being seen drew themselves in the gallery. You're actually part of the artwork when you're drawing yourself. It's a piece that is happening as you're actually interacting, and your interaction really matters. And so when we observe, and we're really observing, I think that what happens is that changes us on a cellular level when we can observe without judgment. And women are oftentimes not even given I think women don't socially have not, I mean, they don't just, you don't spend time on yourself for yourself. It's mostly like if you're looking in the mirror, it's like to fix yourself up for others. Or, you know, it's not, there's not a lot of opportunity women have had at all, I think, in society to just observe themselves, draw what they see. Doesn't matter. You can be drawing your mood. It doesn't have to be like exactly what other people see at all. So my goal is in all of this is that then people reflect and say how in turn they want to be seen. And out of all of this, what I hope ultimately happens is that by seeing ourselves and just having the time to accept yourself in that moment, that we become more accepting of others. More love toward yourself and more love toward others.
Social impact. My work speaks to just like basic needs, similar to what Charly is saying, with my earpiece, it's about, feeling heard, being listened to, basic needs. With the installation, it really was to take time out, over the course of the last 18 months, I've been diving into environmental psychology and neurology and getting pretty excited about all of that. And so my work is made in response to, when we take time out in nature, we are of nature, we are able to, it calms our nervous system down. We use different parts of our brain that then in turn help us have better self-esteem. And when we have better self-esteem and we love ourselves, then we're able to, come back towards others and be able to like have more grace as we speak to others. And so it just, for me, that's really what it was all about is, the more time like I spend in nature, the more time I'm able to come out and truly be a better person and be able to like be genuine with those that I care about and within my community.
I think as for many, many folks during this time, everything slowed down. It slowed down for me. And I recalibrated my own pace and my expectations. This gave me the opportunity to, rather than looking outward, I drew in. I read, I researched, and most important, I listened. And that allowed me to go deeper than previously before with my subject and with the work.
Yeah,
That was the main impact. It's like getting off of that, that frenetic, moving sort of staircase of life, and just slowing down gave me the break I needed to gain some greater insight into what I was doing. It also gave me the opportunity to find new creative communities, including getting to know my social being cohort here better. And I also connected with amazing Oregon poets, Bobby Calhoun, Carter McKenzie, and Benjamin Gorman, with whom I was inspired by and collaborated on a piece that is an exhibit at Maud Kern's Patterns of Privilege, Now Hear This. So that was an incredible benefit that I don't know if it would have happened during a more normal time. I also want to give a shout out to the Oregon Arts Commission and their Career Opportunity Grant program for helping to support that piece and my work.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Well, I had just moved into I had just moved into Eugene the year before the pandemic started, and I moved into my studio a few months before everything shut down. And so I was just starting to become part of the Eugene art community through the small community of my studio. And I got to know Charly, and we decided to pull this, all of us decided to pull this proposal together. I think it was due to the extended deadline of Maud Kern's proposals. So in many ways, Social Being became my community. And without it, I don't think I would have progressed the way that I had. Because it's very much as Kathleen said, since you can't work with the outside world, you work inside, and that working inside and with the community, with the Maud Kern's community that we have here, I think I was able to grow in a different way. And one of the ways is a very different change in process. I had worked very small for a few months before my studio shut down. And I started working larger right before it shut down. And so I began to work smaller again when I had to come back home to my home studio. And because I was working smaller, I started working on the small tags. And I learned very quickly that you can make very big art with small things. So in that way, I'm very grateful to Maud Kearns for providing the opportunity to become a community with these women, these very special women. And the show kept me very focused. So it didn't really change the art I was going to do. It shaped the art I did in many ways. But the other thing I think it made me do is the first year was not very productive for me. There's a lot of concern about the pandemic. And so there was, I was doing a lot of little things, and it took several months before I felt like I was getting someplace. So I think progress was slower in the absence of large community always supporting you on a daily basis. I think progress was slower. And how do I do this new thing all by myself? So I think the other thing that happened for me, not just the process of working smaller and making big art with small things, but my work turned much more conceptual because of the inward work I was doing. And I felt like I learned a great deal about becoming a conceptual artist rather than a piece by piece or small series of works strung together. So that's the way it changed for me.
Okay, so like Sandy said or Sarah said that when we first meeting get together, we didn't know we were going to do it remotely or go through all pandemics. So I remember the first couple meetings, we'll come up our ideas, what is social being mean to us, and then we were say, okay, I have this project going, I want to do this, do that. And then right after the first couple meetings, everything changed and we're like, oh shoot. So is it gonna be people walking in? I remember Sandy and I were talking about the piece we collaborate. We were like worried about, we put it on a wall. What if they touch it? It's like, I don't know. Well, if they touch it, do we give them hand sanitizer next to it? And then the hand's gonna be wet. How do we present this, And then that's just one thing. And others too, right? I believe Kerry and Charly was like, I want to do this, but this requires people touching each other. And then, no, shoot, it doesn't work. We have to change it. But I feel like we still tight with this idea of social being. I am amazed like how flexible human being can be through the past 2 years, you see. And so that's one thing. I don't think it really changed what my artwork that much, but it's changing the process for me. How I think about how to execute my idea, how to work with people. I was thinking, I have 4 women, we're gonna go out and meet, and the whole 2 years, I didn't even see them. I don't even know, honestly, just from the screen. And also, I learned, you have to really trust each other. I trust you just by talking to you, not really working with you in physical space. And we did, we did this. And also I feel, besides trust, we also have to learn, let go, like, well, we every week we're changing our ideas, and then we meet once every other week, every month, and next week's like, what? You said that last time and now it's changing. I'm doing the same thing too. But we just have to trust each other and believe. And then when it's not something right, we let go. And I feel like this group, we really come together, and the social being idea is still there. And I'm very happy we work around, find different ways to pull it together.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing or the wonderful thing about this particular question is, I think what you're saying in a way is that what's happening in current events affects art. And there was so much that happened during the 2 years that we were preparing for this show. There was all of the conversation around the BIPOC community and the Black Lives Matters protests, and political outrage on every side and in between. And so for me, it wasn't so much the pandemic that affected my work. It was more the conversations around BIPOC, being more aware of how people in different communities feel like they've been their ideas have been appropriated. Because when you're working with social ideas, it's like, how do you? For me, it's like, how do I discuss the social environment that we're in, and not talk about some of the big issues of our time, like race. And as a white person, I felt like that was like, it was maybe not my place. So for instance, that caused me to look more inward and say, okay, it actually caused me to look more at my heritage, and that actually influenced the piece a lot. I found that my heritage was also in many ways socially unacceptable. And so much that I didn't even consider my heritage. It just was erased, really. So the language of my people, like, people don't speak it much anymore and all of that. So definitely not in our family. So it caused me to look more, the times that we went through during the last couple of years caused me to become more empathetic by having and being forced to look inward, which is kind of what this whole piece is about, is like looking at ourselves more and just observing ourselves. So
the pandemic, being a mother and in a family, at times in a much larger extended family with many people living with us throughout portions of the pandemic, it was a lot of a lot of focus on mental health, not only my own, but everybody else that was, in my bubble, and just the conversation of small wins, like being in the woods and seeing something beautiful and taking a photograph, and then you're taking a video. And over 18 months of all those tiny moments, I was able to put together a film that just reminded me that you got to take wins where you can get them, right? In moments where you just don't know what's going to happen next, to just try and stay positive as much as possible. One of my other pieces that was in the installation was in response to sustainability, and with everybody at home, there's a lot of Amazon packages being sent every day. And so my couch I made with recycled plastic film, because there's, an environmental crisis that's happening right now with the amount of packages that are being sent to everybody. And what are we going to do with all this bubble wrap and soft plastic film? So, I helped all my friends. And many people in the community gave me, happily, I think, all their plastic trash that I sliced up and made a beautiful piece of work out of. And so, again, a small win, of something that is not necessarily something that you think about. And so, I think during the pandemic, for me, it was like, how can I get out and feel better in small ways, and then also come back and just like be in a cocoon, so that then I can be strong for myself and those in my bubble.
Thank you all for your perspectives on that question. I really appreciate you diving deep and talking about all of that. Thank you. So the next thing we're going to do, this is also one of my favorite things, is when each artist gets a chance to talk about one of the pieces that they created for this show. So I will, again, go in alphabetical order. And Michael will put up an image on the screen as we go, and the artist is going to talk about how they created the piece. And I'm very excited to have us look at all of this. So we're going to start with Kathleen. And so Kathleen is going to talk about her installation called Patterns of Privilege Reflect This. So Kathleen, take it away.
Thank you. Over the last decade, my work has shifted from a meditation on the role of self to nature to the current social dynamics and cultural space that I find myself in, we find ourselves in. This work was deeply informed by both my response to the Black Lives Matter movement and the events that precipitated that, as well as a 2018 residency at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. And all of that challenged my notions of myself as a creative person and my work as a white woman working in that space, this space. This installation is an extension of previously themed work. However, this, like I mentioned, that reflection piece, it involves a number of mirrors that offer the opportunity for the viewer to physically reflect on themselves as they are taking in the various layered patterns and metaphors. But it also includes glass photographs of me, because I'm also a participant this reflection. The patterns I work with are derived from both actual experience and historic and contemporary research. They're also a nod to my early career in New York City as a textile designer. And those abstracted then patterns and artifacts are layered and juxtaposed to hopefully create a compression of time and really a conversation for today. I hope that people will be drawn in by that layering, by, frankly, the prettiness of those patterns, and then have that moment of thought and reflection. And
That's
so
wonderful.
I think we have a number of detail shots. The piece it's 8 foot tall by about 22 feet wide. And it also includes a acrylic and aerosol painted panel that there it is, that includes patterns gleaned from the Sweetbriar Slave Cemetery that I experienced while at VCCA, and overlapped, dangling down, almost, encroaching upon and smothering are the Sweetbriar Rose pattern, which was a very popular pattern. It was in antebellum, in the antebellum South. It was seen in tapestries, in housewares, in just every sort of decorative item that you can imagine in a well-to-do plantation house. So I'm juxtaposing those patterns and developing, a relationship between them that hopefully people will begin to delve into and dive into. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, and it's really, your installation is so amazing with all of the different physical things that you're using, and all of the different mediums that you're tapping into. It's a lot of work for one artist to be able to switch between these mediums and express themselves with it. So thank you for talking about that.
Well, thank you. And yes, and the materials themselves, of course, have a conversation as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's all part of it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Before I became an artist, or while I was becoming an artist, I made my living as a professional speechwriter. And so everything that I do comes from something that has been written, whether it's narrative or poetry. And this particular piece is part of a series that is part of a story arc. The first piece in the series is the collaborative piece that I did with Mei-ling. She did this amazing sound work that accompanied the piece, and that piece is called Camp Trauma We Endure, and that's about the concentration camp experience of Japanese Americans during World War II. This piece, Grief, Remember, began during COVID, and began with my understanding myself as wanting to do something on these tags. And I don't think we have close-ups of these tags, but these are just basically cardstock. Oh, thanks, Michael. Cardstock luggage tags. These are symbolic of the tags that were hung around the necks of all of the individuals, whether you were a baby, a child, a grown-up, whatever. When you were transported from your hometown to the temporary relocation center, which was often a horse stall at a racetrack, a fairgrounds where animals were kept. But you wore this tag, and you were told you were wearing this tag as an identification tag to, quote unquote, keep families together. So take that for what that's worth. So I began making these tags one by one, not knowing quite what I was going to do with them. And then I started to do them in groups of 2s and 3s and found, oh, this makes a pleasing abstract composition. At the same time, I had only a few months before turned from representational oil painting to abstract work, ink on paper. So finding that I could make larger compositions out of several tags, I began making tags 3s and 4s, then 5s, then 10s, and then pasting them up on sheets of foam core, 20 by 30 sheets. And by the time I had filled 2 or 3 sheets of foam core with these tags all in a row like this, I thought, this is a monument. This was reminding me very strong emotional tie for me to Maya Lin's Vietnam War Memorial, and having lived 20 years of my life looking at that memorial while I lived in Washington, D.C. area. I felt this is a monument. This is what this was meant to be. So this grew into a trial installation in my studio at Art City Studios. And it grew to the size it is now, which is approximately 5 feet by 9 feet. And 240 of these tags. as a testament to those camps and what my parents were in those camps. My mother went through high school in one of those camps. My dad and most of my uncles served in the US military, while brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers were in those camps. So it's partly for me, it's partly for the Japanese American community, and it's for anybody who will look at this piece. Accompanying this is another work, which is really an integral part of the grief process. And because of the way I work, which is very organic, and I notice everything about what is produced when I produce a piece of work, and what comes out of those tags that I made are scraps, because I excavate paper. I build and rebuild layers and layers of paper. In this case, it was only one layer, but I had torn shards off of that paper to make the abstract work you saw on the wall. And to me, those shards spoke to me. They spoke to the memories that were left, that were resulted from the experience, resulted from the grief. And I knew those scraps would be either scattered on the floor of the gallery or put in a vessel. So it's now in a vessel, and I call the piece Mottai Nai, which means don't waste in Japanese. And when we say the word, and this is from a third generation Japanese American, so maybe somebody who is Japanese is their first language would say differently. But to me, Mottai Nai means there's something very precious and something that we should cherish, and there's gratitude and something that we care about in the waste that we create. Just like Kerry reused the plastic in her furniture. And so Mottai Nai signifies this, don't forget, not just don't waste, but don't waste our memories. Let's use them to go forward. So that's about the process and the conceptual thinking that went into that pair of works.
Okay, so most of my work these past few years always center around some instrument that we call it data-driven instrument. And for many years, I always been interested with storytelling, this kind of format. I feel like everything happened around me, or you watch a movie, you read the news, something on newspaper, or you see a commercial, you hear something, they all have their own story. Everything has its own story. So I feel like I use this medium that I can probably best to deliver my ideas. So I also like to take materials, things that right next to me, happen to me. So this story is actually starting with when my two girls, we were driving in the car at night, and then I can't remember which one, just look around, say, oh gosh, their house is so beautiful. We all think other houses are much prettier than ours. So they say, oh, their house is beautiful. I'm wondering what it looks like inside. And that gave my husband an idea of write the story. So I wanna, the story is written by Jefferson Goolsby. I believe he is in the chat now. He is in our Zoom meeting. Jeff always wrote amazing stories. I mean, I have to say, every story he wrote, has something inside it. It's not openly, but it's something in there if you really sink into it. So I get his permission, use the story. Then I incorporate the story. When I laid it out, I say how I gonna, besides the sound design, I want to make it like a performance piece. I want to, each time when you perform it is a little bit different. Just like you play piano sonata, every pianist sit on the piano, they will have different performance, even if it's the same composition. So this was created, and I choose to use a we to as my instrument. And the Wii is like, I don't know if you can see it here. The Wii controller has it can control when you move straight down or left and right, or we call it rotating it, and also has buttons on the Wii control. So I use those to control how to make the music or the story moving forward faster, quicker in the time base, or control the sound in real time based on when I hear the story was told and how I want to manipulate the sound in live. So that is the general process. And of course, we go into the studio, read the story, and the girl's voice, if you were in Malkern and hear this piece, the girl's voice is my daughter. The piece was originally created only for live performance, but then because the pandemic, I need to show this piece in a video format. So we decided to shoot the footages. We went out at night and then have my girls as an actress, and we filmed the footage. And then Jeff created the video together. And that's how you see the final version of it. Yeah.
Sure. So thank you. So with this piece, how it evolved was I was working on another piece. It's a public art piece that's it's on culture raising, and I was working bringing visibility to the Native American and Indigenous community, the people who live in this area. And so I started to think about my own heritage in all of this. And I was reading, like Kathleen was saying, you read more and such, and it's just always wonderful to research. So it came up on an Indigenous website that was talking about the Celtic people and how they were originally of the land, and these are the and they'd lost their language predominantly, and that the women were equal at that time. And I thought, I've not really been the one kind of what I would say is art. As a social sculptor, and is Stonehenge. I've always just really admired the work of Stonehenge, and I started thinking, wow, women were equal then. What if my ancestors were the women who helped design and oversaw the construction of Stonehenge? And so it just really got me excited. It's like, wow, that makes so much sense, because I always have to do these big projects. It's just like, maybe it's just in my blood. So it's in my DNA. So I thought I want to make this monolithic form. And I actually wanted to make a circle of them, but that wasn't possible. And I would have taken up the whole gallery. So what I did was, and I think the stone is like, it holds our history. It's telling our story. When you really just sit with a stone, you can feel like the vibration of the stone, the essence of all of life that has happened during the time of that stone. It's kind of like standing with the ancient red oaks. So what I did then was to create the story, was invite women to draw themselves, to observe themselves over time in the mirror. And then my intention was then to take those drawings and make them into a like a video story. So what I found was people were most people were terrified to draw themselves. And as an artist, I didn't realize that this was like, it really touched a nerve that I would even ask people to do that, women to do that. I didn't ask men, so I don't know. So the only people who said yes in the beginning were artists. So it became a piece with artists' drawings, and some were drawers and some were not. But these women all agreed to observe themselves over time and activate their will forces to create this body of work. And they sent the digital images to me. I created the videos, or put the pieces together according to how they told their story about how they want to be seen. So after they spent time with themselves, they sent a digital story to me about saying how they want to be seen and why and such. And everybody took it. That's all it was. That was all of the instruction. Draw yourself many times, as many as possible. Spend that time with yourself, draw yourself, and say how you would like to be seen. Not instructing them who they're talking to, who is the audience when they're saying that, nothing. So everybody came with something very different. It's really wonderful to see all the variety in just these 5 women. And the 5 women are Patricia Montoya Donahue, Sandra Honda, Kerry and Gracia, Liz LaRue, and Barbara Council. And they are all amazing people. And I had to say, I felt so privileged to be able to work with their words and their images of themselves. I didn't realize until I was in the midst of it, like, wow, in some ways, like, wow, they're letting me do this. It was really kind of amazing. So I felt like we had created a space where people felt, these women felt safe. And especially after seeing so many women react in a way that they didn't feel safe. That really helped me even honor more like what it takes to be vulnerable like this. And so the reason for the structure and the doors is that it's a space that you could be, like, it could contain a person, absolutely. And doors are openings, but in this structure with these 4 doors, there is no handle. There are only hinges. You can see in, but it's a very voyeuristic type of, from one perspective, it's like very, I'm presenting myself. And then from these other angles, it's like you really have to look in. You have to like make a little bit more of an effort to see. So this is an exciting body of this is an exciting piece for me, and also because then the mirrors that you see and the drawings that you see in this this little bin on the floor, I'm going to then take those drawings and add to the piece, so that the people who have participated will become part of, not only in the gallery, the act of self-observation, but also they'll become part of on being seen.
Okay, so thank you again. So this is a photograph. So, okay, small wins, right? Small wins, here we go. The movie was a collection of photographs and video, and then to make it a little bit more interesting, and because I'm not a videographer, fluff it with a little bit of royalty-free video. It goes through 4 geographical regions. It starts in mountain and goes through valley and through the forest and then to the ocean, and each section is about 12 to 13 minutes long, and I did upload it to a YouTube channel, so if you're interested, I can send you the link. There is an original composition from my dear friend and contributor Nathan Trowbridge, and then during the video for each geographical region, I read a poem by Mary Oliver, who I've loved for a long time. The valley section is in memory of a dear family friend and brother who left the earth this year, and so it was a tribute to him in a pretty incredible way to process the grief that came through that. And again, I created a nest. I created a space where hopefully people can go in and they breathe and they relax and they sit on this couch that's, you know, made out of everybody's trash, that's honestly very comfortable. It is covered in velvet and silk. And, you know, I hope that people go and just cozy up. Yes, there is hand sanitizer when you enter. I did make something for people to touch and engage with, but I called it the limbic love seat. In the limbic system, it is where your like long-term memories are held. It's where your emotions are held. And through creating the film and, you know, being an amateur environmental psychologist and neurologist, I came across some information called attention restoration theory, which is basically the idea that through soft fascination of images, you're able to relax the executive network of your brain, which then lets the default network of your brain go into action. And through using the default network, it can actually help lead to, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but basically it helps, it can affect your mood, your self-perception, it reduces anxiety, and it helps you focus when you need to. So you're kind of daydreaming, you're relaxing, you're feeling better about yourself, and then when you need to go and write that really important email, your prefrontal cortex is able to focus again. So that kind of ties into the limbic system as well. But basically, you know, I hope that when people enter into this space, it's a giant hug for themselves to just know that everything is going to be okay, hopefully, and to have faith and just remember to love yourself so that you can love others.
We have a couple questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and take a minute and just read those out. So let me just take a look at this really quickly on our chat. First thing, Josh Sand says, hi, Kerry, congratulations, and congratulations to everyone. So that's a nice message I want to pass on there. And then Yvonne Campbell, to everyone, she says to Kathleen specifically, in the mixed media pieces, you combine cutouts of names combined with silhouettes of a figure who emerges full frontal and then disappears in others while re-emerging in another. Can you talk about the correlations between the names, figure, and tree silhouettes?
Thanks. I wanted to thank Yvonne for that question, but before I get to it, I just want to, as we all have, just thank Sarah and Michael and Maud Kearns for their hosting our exhibition and for their generosity during the entire process. Thank you. So Yvonne, you're referring to those 5 smaller wood, collaged wood panels on the back wall. And they were done, they sort of came before the other work came. And the figure that is I've cut out is a figure of the African-American rodeo star, late 19th century, early 20th century, Bill Pickett. And he was a superstar in that world. And he was able to bridge in a way that racial divide. And he became, for me, a symbol of non-white influence and import in the American West. This was a history that I was not taught in school, that I learned very late in life. And it grabbed me. And so those pieces that feature his figure, it's an homage to him and to that history of the West that I did not have a clue about. And the names are, the names reference contemporary African Americans who have been killed in racially motivated or institutional killings. And so it's juxtaposing the past with the contemporary. And several of the pieces really reference the West, and others are referencing more my experience in Virginia. I don't know if I've answered things sufficiently or not. You know, Yvonne, you can always email me. We'll talk about it. We'll talk it through, because I know that we're pressed for time. I did want to mention that where I'm going with this work is to keep going with patterns, keep working with patterns. It's my way in to the conversation, and looking at those patterns as metaphors for patterns of behavior. And that is, and I have to look at my own behavior and the history of that behavior. And so that's where I'm going to be focusing my future investigations and you know, artwork making. And I am scheduled to attend an artist residency at the Vermont Studio Center later this year, funded by the Ford Family Foundation. And I'll continue to develop the work.
I just want to, since we're over time, we'll just do this briefly, but I'd like each artist to say where people can see more of their work, like maybe a website, something like that, or what your next upcoming things are that people could attend or go to virtually, or whatever you want to say. So we'll start with Kathleen. What is up next for you? Where could people see more of your work?
Well, as I mentioned, I have the artist residency coming up later this year. And you can see my work at my website, and that is caprarioart.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's see, Sandy, same question for you. What's up next? Where can people see more of your work?
Yeah, thanks to this wonderful group of social being artists and to Maud Kearns. I'm going to carry this work forward to the brand new Research Center for the Arts in Beaverton, Oregon, where Mei-ling and Jeff Goolsby and I will have a show for 2 months this summer. I have a residency at Pine Meadows Ranch Center for Arts and Agriculture in Sisters in the fall. And then next year, Mika Ono and I will be showing at the Walters Cultural Arts Center in Hillsborough.
Wow, thank you. A lot coming up. That's great. All right, and Mei-ling, what's up next for you, and where can people see more of your work?
I think this coming few months, Jeff and I will keep working on more children's story. We have the one I show in the exhibit is actually one of the trilogy. So we're hoping finish that all three stories and then can present it together to the public. And in April, I'm gonna do a live performance on one of my data-driven instrument in Oregon, Portland State University up in Portland. Is in late April. I also want to post the link here for my recital just happened not too long ago that has 4 of my recent works there. If anyone is interested, want to figure out what is data-driven instrument, and so that is my music. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mei-ling. That's great to hear. Okay, and so let's see, we're on to Charly. What's up next? Where can people see more of your work?
Well, there's a piece that is installed along the riverfront. I was the conceptual artist for the piece, and Tenapa TJ, she was the photographer for the faces of people. Actually, she photographed half faces of elders and youth, and those have been enlarged so that each the faces like really close up. So you have this very very intimate experience with the images of these people, looking into their eyes. They're 8 feet high, and the entire installation is 100 feet wide. It's extremely powerful, and what we did, it's a culture raising, similar to a barn raising, and the concept was that we created this space to bring people that were different races, different cultures, different ages, all these just different people in this age of otherness that feels I feel like we need to in this work and in much of my work create opportunities to get beyond the otherness and become togetherness. And so together we built this installation, this public art piece, and piece by piece by piece created this image that's 25 sheets of material, 4x8 material that are cut into 33 slices each. So it's just it was amazing bringing all these people together and creating this together for another culture, not just for ourselves, but because we believe in our community and the richness of our community, and wanted to work together to give to create visibility for the people who are Indigenous and Native American. And that piece will hopefully continue to inspire activity there and conversation. Mostly in that question, I would say where my work can be seen, I hope, is in the effect of the work can be seen in our society.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks, Charly. And Kerry, same thing for you. Where can people see more of your work? What's up next?
What's up next for me is in my other part of my life when I'm not making art to deal with processing the world. I am an event producer, and I am producing the Riverfront Festival that's going to be happening in July for the 10 days when Oregon 22 is going to be in town. So that's going to be my art project for the next 5 months. And I'm looking forward to diving into creating some more furniture. I have some ideas of some other pieces that I want to make, and so I'm just gonna keep plugging away and making work as I have time, and hopefully, at some point I'll be able to have another show and show my pieces. But for right now, I'm deep in events. So come to the Riverfront Festival, everybody. It's going to be pretty incredible.
Thank you. That's great to know. And thank all of you for everything. And again, I just want to say the show is up through next Friday, February 11th. So please stop in and see it. And with that, thank you very much for attending. Thank you, artists, and good night.
Thank you
Bye,
all
everybody.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yep.